Good job.
Okay, so welcome everybody. This is episode what?
17.
Episode 17. This started off, we were only going to have 3 or 4 of these, and they've really taken off, so that's great. We got a really interesting program today. Vince Cott is with us. Vince is the owner, founder, president of Hornet Paddles, and he's going to talk to us about the Hornet paddle that we see everywhere, the graphics paddle, the first one to do the flowered sort of Hawaiian theme to those boring black dragon boat paddles that we all used to put stickers on so that they would look cool. Yeah, well, now we don't have to. So Vince is going to be talking to us about that. But first, we are honored to have with us from the Royal Dragon Boat family of the Quocks. And I got to read some of this, Stephen. But Stephen is the patriarch of the Royal Quock family of Dragon Boat. Stephen and his family live in Toronto. Those of you that know Kevin Quock from our camp, Kevin is Stephen's son. And Stephen's family at one time boasted having 4 family members that were all on Team Canada USA teams. Stephen himself is a former national team coach and national team athlete with many gold medals. And he was the driving force to implement Senior A and Senior B paddling, basically senior paddling with the International Dragon Boat Federation. So as I'm looking at all these faces, I'm seeing a number of you look like you might be over the age of 50. And the reason that you are competing at a world championship or club cruise is because of Stephen. And Stephen is the guy that looks like David Suzuki there with his little Fu Manchu on today. And I know you're all old enough to know.
That's my COVID beard.
Anyway, it was Stephen that convinced IDBF, and they were reluctant, that the senior division would be a benefit to Dragon Boat and a growth factor for it. And he pushed and pushed. And it is what it is now. It's Senior A, B, and C. Now there's lobbying for Senior D. And yeah, who knows where this is going to go. But it's been a great revenue generator for IDBF. Plus, it's grown the sport immensely. So without any further ado, Stephen, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Okay, fine.
So I'm going to ask you all to mute, if you wouldn't mind, and I will mute in and out kind of thing. Stephen, so how and when did you get started in Dragon Boat?
Well, it's a long time ago when I was a toddler back in the old country in China, Southeast China. When I was just a little toddler, I became aware of this thing called Dragon Boat racing. As you're aware, Dragon Boat racing has originated in China. So it's also being practiced in our village. So I had permission from my mom to go and watch a Dragon Boat race. I did go, and I was so fascinated by that sport. Anyway, at the end of all the races, I went fishing with a couple of buddies of mine. Now, bear in mind, I was hardly 6, 7 years old. And I didn't come home until 3 hours later. My mom was so worried and gave me a piece of her heart for sure. Fast track forward. Then I graduated from I went to Hong Kong, graduated from high school in Hong Kong, and came to Canada. I took Kevin to the martial arts class, and one of the practitioners said, "Hey, Steve, are you interested in dragon boating?" Now, that would be in 1987, 88. And I said, no, I'm over the hill. I'm over 40 years old. I was actually 42, 43, I think. He said, no, come on, you're not over the hill. You're in reasonably good shape. So I said, okay, I tried anything once. So the next day I went and practiced with the team that already had done about 3 or 4 practices, and I fell in love with the sport right away. So my first race was at the Center Island back in 1989, 1990, I think. Never look back. 6 years later, I became the coach of that team that I joined. And about 10 years later, I became involved in a national team with Jim Farintosh. And we won our first gold medal in Philadelphia in 2001. So that's how I became very, very interested in that sport. And later on, I found that there's always room for improvement, as we all know. Everyone, even now, I'm still trying to learn more nuances in that dragon boat stroke. I always said that the perfect dragon boat stroke is still out there somewhere. So we are all looking for it.
Well, come on down here. I'll show you. Kevin or Stephen, you had 4 family members at competing at the highest level in the world. That truly makes you, I don't know any other family that's ever achieved that. You are truly the royal family of Dragon Boat. How did you convince your family to spend so much time with you?
I actually need not convince them at all. I was the first one, I think, in the Greater Toronto area to have bought a paddling machine. So when conditions are not favorable for me to be on the boat, I paddle at home. And gradually they became interested. I never had to urge anyone to join this sport. They gradually kind of tuned in and became interested. Oh, Dad, can I come? So it's by osmosis, diffusion, if you have it. And gradually everybody just kind of precipitated towards the national team. So at the height of things, we had actually Terry, my daughter, is also a national level team. She never did join the national team for the IDBF World Championship, but she did take part in the Club Crew Championship in Penang. Do you remember Penang?
I do.
Yeah, and she also medal. So there's actually the 5 of us who was at one time or the other paddle with the national team.
So you've got to be a little bit proud, and we don't want to make this about Kevin, because I want to talk about the whole getting the senior division started. But I've got to ask you, what was it like to watch Kevin and Alex develop into the 2 top athletes in the country? And at what stage did Kevin start to pass you?
Oh, I still remember vividly. And we are an athletic, physical family. I used to challenge Kevin to an arm wrest after the Dragon Boat races. And I think it was about age 16 that I start to not being able to do that. So when he actually turned 17, he was doing that. I was struggling like this. I said, that's a silly sport. Let's forget about it. So then we became interested in OC1 time trial, which we initiated, as you know, for selection of the national team members. And I beat him convincingly at first. I mean, I hardly tried at all. 6 months later, he served notice that and from that point on, 10 strokes and he's gone. I can't even ride his wash. So that was that. And another amazing story is Alex, our youngest son. He was never officially being coached by me. He just watched my coaching on the Dragon Boat, and he picked up everything. He at first joined the junior team, the junior national team in Canada, reluctantly at the urging of Kevin. So finally he did join and did the time tryout, and his OC1 time results was in the top 10% of the premier team members. So it was at that point that Kevin urged, I think Matt Smith or whoever the coach was at the time, to let him try out for the premier team as well. So he actually straddled the junior, the U23, and the premier team that won the world championships. So that was that. I never did have to force them, urge them, encourage them. They just came naturally.
So you had I think at one point you had, your family held the record for the fastest outrigger time trial ever. And I think your wife, Margaret, held the record for the most distance covered in an OC time trial ever.
That was with you as a timer or as one of the officials. She zigzagged all the way, double the distance of the time trial. Yeah, that was sometime in the past.
So, Stephen, tell us about how this whole senior thing started. Because I remember back in the day, and I'm only paddling because the senior division started. But back in the day, it seemed that they were always, the IDBF was always, their long-term goal was always towards the Olympics, always to build credibility for this sport as an elite sport, and sanctioned by the Olympic Committee and so on. And then, and they didn't like the idea necessarily of having what they considered to be older athletes connected to our sport, because we might lose credibility. They might see it as not a real sport, but just a community kind of thing. So do you want to tell us about your struggles there and how you did bring about the whole senior program?
Actually, that struggle is continuing even as we speak now, evidenced by the creation of Senior D. When I mentioned Senior D in Kunming, or prior to that, actually it all started back in Australia days, remember? And I said, look, we are progressing towards the D division, so let's start thinking about it. And the reason for that is because in Philadelphia, that would be 2001. Actually, that started in year 2000 when Jim Farintosh came over to my house and said, hey, Steve, I noticed that you won the berth to race in Philadelphia in the senior division. I said, yeah, there was a lot of urging, a lot of reasoning, a lot of putting the evidence right in front of their noses in the IDBF head honchos. Based on a very simple logic, we are all aging. And we all know that us boomers, I'm sorry, you're not even in the boomer age there, Pat, but welcome to the boomers age group. We all know that the boomers control the world economy, even as we speak today. And we are best able to afford all of this international trouble. The third thing is that we refuse to relegate ourselves to the rocking chair. Okay? Us boomers, no. We want to live forever. We want to remain healthy forever. And what better sport than dragon boating? It's all inclusive. You don't even have to be athletic. But once you got the bug, then you're in. And once you're in for life. So it's based on that reasoning that I start talking, networking with the like-minded person. And next thing you know, Jim Farintosh is in, quite a few others are in, and then it spread like wildfire. So we had the first notice that we served to the world that the senior division is here to stay. And sure enough, in 2001 in Philadelphia, we won convincingly, both Team A and Team B. Now back then, IDBF let us field two teams in the same age category. So we have Team A and Team B. And I was an athlete in Team B, and I was the coach for Team A in Philadelphia. And the rest is history. So then, you know, Senior A is from 40 to 50, Senior B is 50 to 60. And then I said, okay, let's keep on moving. Spoke like that in front of the IDBF folks. They try to avoid eye contact with me because it requires work for different age divisions, and to put them in a separate race category, it requires logistics and so on and so forth. But the fact is in front of us. We are doing a great thing to our society as well. We make people who are aging healthy. We take people out of their living room from in front of the TV onto the water. So I think it's a win-win situation for everyone. So why not? That is based on that. And Senior D is being worked on. Thank you very much. I think in your part of the world, you already have a few crews that are of Senior D category. And I understand Vancouver already has a couple of crews that are ready to go as well. Prior to COVID, my planning was I'm going to issue challenges to those villagers, to folks in Vancouver, and say, look, come and race here at the Center Island in the Senior D division. And if you come a few days earlier, no problem. We will provide training facilities, practice facilities for you to do a little tune-up. So that was prior to COVID-19. Now we don't know. The mindset is still similar. Yeah. We would like to invite all Senior D folks to get together and race against one another. I think it would be a lot of fun. Interesting to note that when we were in the Senior B division in preparation for the World Championship, we were racing. We were having a training camp in Welland, and we raced against the Senior A crews, national team crews, and we beat them. I don't know if you remember that or not, Pat.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
We had a lot of friends they were friends. We had some friends on that other team that we beat, but they weren't so sociable afterwards.
No.
that was quite something. We handed them themselves. So Stephen, what's the argument? Everybody on this call, I think, no exceptions, is in that age group, adult athletes, and you're preaching to the choir. What's the argument that you get from IDBF why is it has to be sold? What are their concerns about not wanting to?
Their main concern is it dilutes the focus. It dilutes the depth of the Senior B and the Senior A, because believe it or not, there are still some Senior D folks in the Senior A crew, national team crews there, who refuse to say I'm elderly. So if we have Senior D, then naturally those folks from the Senior A and Senior B division would want to join us. And some of the athletes, the outstanding ones, will be straddling A, B, and C. That has happened before. So IDBF feels that, look, let's focus on Senior A and Senior B. Forget about Senior C. And as late as 3 years ago, there was a move afoot to amalgamate Senior C into A and B. Needless to say, there was a lot of protests, and we just stood firm and said, no, Senior C is here to stay. Can you picture what their response would be with Senior D?
Yeah.
Having said that, I must give credit to the likes of Haslam. Mike Haslam is the former executive president of IDBF. Mike Haslam actually encourages me and says, Steve, go ahead, full steam ahead. Get Senior D formed And as you know, when we form a first division, a new division in the IDBF World Championship, we are always put in as a demonstrating team. That is, if we have 3 or 4 countries taking part. At this point, I think the countries that are sure to have senior D would be United States, Canada, Australia, and maybe Germany. And that's about all. I was kind of disappointed with Great Britain because I know quite a few folks from the UK who are of senior D age group, but they don't. They need a Pat Bradley over there.
I like the food.
Yeah.
Okay, I lost my train of thought there. Where was I going with that one?
The main reasons for
Oh,
objecting
yeah.
age group
So
like that.
I don't know if you guys are all aware, but at the last, as recently as in Thailand at the World Championships, they have the IDBF has their annual Congress meeting where they change rules and bring in new rules and vote on them and so on. They do that at every World Championship. The following Monday, when the racing's over, they have this Congress meeting and they make decisions on bylaws and rules and changes and things like that. Well, there was it was on the table to get rid of, not just not approve Senior D, but there was it was on the table to get rid of Senior C. They were going to get rid of Senior C.
It's still on, eh?
Yeah, and Mike Kirkman was over there lobbying. Andrew Szymanski, the president of USDBF, was there lobbying. And they spent the whole week there walking around talking to other coaches and to other countries. And it was it wasn't looking very promising. The European countries in particular didn't want the seniors. Didn't want the senior division because they don't have senior athletes. They were buying into the credibility of the sport and wanting it to be an elite, high-profile sport and get it into the Olympics. But anyway, they worked hard. They lobbied, and as luck would have it, the vote went through. So we're good for another few years anyway.
Right.
But their argument was isn't enough participation. But they based that on the standard boat, and on the small boat there were more senior boats in the small boat than there were in the standards.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, Stephen, before we run out of time here, I wanted to mention to people that if you've ever been to the closing ceremonies and seen this big trophy, it's a huge, huge trophy that Stephen and his family donated I forget the name of it, I apologize, but it is a trophy for the top senior program at every World Nations Cup. So in Thailand, for example, the trophy would have gone to the country that won the most medals in senior A, B, and C. Is that correct, Stephen?
That's correct, yes.
So who won it?
I thought it was Canada again.
Really?
We have to check the results.
Can I ask
but
for
I thought it was Canada again.
Can I ask for a recount?
Yes.
But anyway, it's like a jewel that's about 4 feet long. It's packed in this velvet case. You open it up and it's got this shaped thing like you put a gun in it, except it's cut out for a trophy, and it's all velvet. And you guys cart that. You put that on a plane and you carry that to every World Championship.
Yeah, it was about with the case and everything is over 100 pounds. So we have to get it through customs and ever since September 11th, they are that much stricter. So we always have problem convincing them that no, it doesn't contain any ammos or anything like that. It is perfectly safe. And I guess gradually they come to the realization that yes, it is safe with the carving and everything there. Why did we do that? Well, it has to do with, again, 2001 again. We won, as I said, convincingly. So we were so happy trying to hoist that cup, the Nations Cup for the Premier crew. Someone came and tapped me on the shoulder. No. This is only for the Premier crews. The winningest country in the Premier Division. And I said, what? Talk about age discrimination. So I said, no, we Canadians, we are going to create another Senior Nations Cup. And that's the inception of that particular concept. Came back, did a lot of research, and geez, sometimes it's hard to spend money. I mean, I already had at that point, I had about $30,000 budget. And I tried to make a cup that is comparable to the Nations Cup for the Premier crew. I did about over a year's of research and preparation before I can get it. And it's gold plated 3 times. I said I want every World Championship to be gold plated once. So eventually it will have multiple layers of gold plating on it, on the sterling silver. And that was what I want. But those experts at the trophy store said that, no, that's not necessary. So it's got 3 layers of gold plating on it. I convinced my classmate from Queen's University, who was a fellow engineer. I said, look, let's go in together. And he said, oh, yeah. So the trophy is now known as the Kwak Koo Trophy, the Senior Nations Cup. Yeah, and it's now here to stay. It's got a lot of spaces, so don't worry. It will have space for many, many, many World Championships to come.
Well, that's motivation for us to win some more medals at the next one. Thanks for doing that.
I'm pretty sure when you say us, you meant Canadians.
No.
Oh, okay. Just testing. It's okay. Healthy competition is always the best.
Yeah.
It does not necessarily have to be Canadian, US, or any other country. Just healthy competition. Get those people out, especially the boomers, out on the water. And I just want to say a word of thanks to Pat Bradley. You are instrumental. You are the stalwart in seniors dragon boating. Actually, now you are gathering steam, even more steam in the villages, and get those people out. And that's what we should do in each of our locale.
Oh, thanks, Stephen. That's nice of you, and thanks for your time today. The Kwaks really are the royal family of dragon boat, and seriously, none of us would be. We might be paddling, but we wouldn't be paddling at the World Championships if it wasn't for the Kwak factor. The Kwak factor, and we wouldn't be doing as well if it wasn't for Kwak sauce.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for Stephen before we let him go? They're all seniors.
Yeah.
So
just want to say hi to everyone, and just want to say keep paddling. Don't ever give up.
Yeah, you're an inspiration to us all, Stephen. And if you ever get a chance to come down here and spend some time, there'd be a crew down here waiting for you too.
Okay, and the same invitation to all on this meeting here. Come to Toronto. We're the epicenter of dragon boating in North America.
Oh,
I know that response. We are kindred spirits. We have great passion for this sport, and let's keep on going.
All right. Thanks, Stephen. And stick around because we got Vince coming up here.
Sure.
I'm going to pass the host over to you, Vince, as soon as I introduce you here. Vince caught, if any of you have paddled, and I think probably a lot of you are using his paddles, this is the guy. Vince Cott is Canadian. I think he's still a Canadian. A young entrepreneur that went from paddler to the business side of paddling and got into the industry of making paddles. He lives in Maine with his wife and daughter and son. And he was originally from Quebec, I think, Vince, correct?
Yes, Montreal.
Yeah. His company, Hornet, has really put some sizzle into our paddles. As I mentioned before, and in my day, before Vince was around, people were putting stickers on their paddles to make them look cool and to identify them. And I made the point of doing that on one of my paddles on the first national team I was on with Steven. And the coach, Stan Mahachuk, said, you know, only recreational paddlers and rookies put stickers on their paddles. So me and the rest of the rookies went back to our trailer after that and started heating it up and peeling all our stickers off so we looked like everybody else. But we were new. What did we know? But yeah, so Vince is the first to introduce graphics on Dragon Boat paddles. And not just the graphics, but to customize paddles. And I've got a bunch sitting here in my office. I've got one with Spain on it, Canada. There's a heat paddle, Hungary. He does it all, and it's really added something to the sport, in my opinion. Not to mention that it's a good carbon fiber paddle as well. So he's an innovator, and that's what the sport needs. He's had great success establishing Hornet paddles. It's one of the most popular paddles. You see them everywhere around the world. So I'm going to let Vince turn this over to Vince here. As soon as I'm going to pass you the host. Just hang on for a sec. Let me find Vince. Vince, are you listed here as Vince or as info?
I don't know. My name shows up as Vince Cott on the Zoom.
Hang on, everybody. If it takes too much longer, I'll just tell you a joke. You'll love that. Just kidding. You are the host now. Take it away, Vince.
Sure.
Well, actually, yeah, Vince has got a bit of a presentation, but do you want me to just, can we start off, Vince, with just finding out, did you want to roll, or do you want me to ask, I'm curious about how you went from athlete to the business side.
Sure. So it's an interesting story. I got introduced to dragon boat racing by my wife in 2010, and I really fell in love with it, and I started training. She went to the club cruise in Hong Kong. I think I was destined to start a paddle company because when I was dragon boating, everybody had black paddles, and I found a white paddle on eBay. And I was in the first time I was in the rookie team, and I got a white paddle. So I stood out from the beginning. And now looking back, it was maybe a predictor of things to come. So I dragon boated for a couple of seasons with my wife, and then we moved to China. I did my MBA at Shanghai Jiao Tong University. My background back then was finance, so I studied finance. But I always wanted to start my own business. And when I was in Asia, with dragon boating and, manufacturing overseas, it really gave me a lot of ideas of, what I could do. One of the summers during my MBA, I did an internship at JP Morgan, and that really made me realize that I didn't want to work there and that I wasn't going to work in finance anymore. So I had to figure out, this is my opportunity, full-time student, I can start something on the side. So I started looking for, products, what can I make? I went to many factories, and I started thinking, dragon boat paddles, there wasn't too much out there. Let me see what I can do. So I visited many suppliers and learned about different technologies. And then just discovered the opportunity of composite with printing, and that turned into Hornet, which in the beginning was a little bit more of an experiment to see, would people really like graphic paddles? So it wasn't like, now looking back, many people think Hornet's a really big company. We're actually still a very small company, but in the beginning it was really uncertain if it would be popular. So we made 5 designs with dragon scales as our first test, and that started taking off. And then that's really how Hornet got started. And we've added many accessories over the years, seat pads, gloves. I think many people think of Hornet as the paddle company, but if you see us at a vendor race, we try to provide everything that you would need, from tape, tip protectors, bags, team travel bags, mini wood paddles for souvenirs. So we really want to supply everybody with fun products. And I think that's really what's driven the company is creating fun products. We don't want, I have a lot of fun designing it. I love doing it, and I love when people love our products. So that's really what keeps us going.
Whoops. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things I should have mentioned in the intro is that Vince supports a lot of events, a lot of dragon boat events. He's always been there to endorse and support camps and festivals and, giveaways to athletes and things like that. So, he's got he's got that connection to the athletes in terms of donation and support for the national team and so on. Okay, Vince, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your paddles, how they're made, how the graphics work? And
Sure. Also, I want to highlight all the partners we've worked with. It's been great. It's really, the sport of dragon boating is a team effort, and it's really, for us, Hornet, we wouldn't have been able to do it without our dealer network. In every countries, we have different dealers, and they've been very supportive. All the dragon boat associations out there, the IBCPC, we've done a lot of great work with them. That's been very fulfilling, as well as working with Pat Bradley, Pan Am. So we really enjoy the community aspect, and probably a lot of you have either seen me at races or seen some of our dealers, and we really enjoy that. So a little bit more about the paddle side of the business. This was talking with Mike Kirkman. Mike Kirkman knows a lot more about the history of dragon boating, but he was telling me that really the idea behind the shape of what we know today as a dragon boat paddle is trying to keep in line with the traditions from China. And also by having a standardized paddle that no one has an unfair advantage. So everybody has the same shape. You're pulling the same amount of water based on the surface. This is why the IDBF has what they call the 202A specification. So every paddle company has to fit within this guideline. So on the surface, it looks, when you look at this, you would think, wow, every paddle is the same because of these measurements. The blade surface, the width, everything is controlled, or it has to fit within their parameter. But then at the same time, not every paddle is created equal. So I'll expand a little bit on some of the things that we have room to play with. The shape of the handle, the shape of the shaft, oval, more round, the undulations on the blade, the surface. So although the surface dimensions is the same, every paddle is made a little bit differently to the materials. So I have a few pictures to show a little bit more about how Hornet paddles are made. So we begin with, this is a picture of our mold. It's made out of stainless steel, high quality stainless steel. Called PMI foam. So it's basically, these are the sheets that we begin with. And then we use a CNC machine to cut the shape of the blade. So PMI foam is an aeronautic material that they use in planes and other high-tech products, especially with composites. So that's what we use inside the foam of our paddles. Other companies don't use this. Not to say that not to say ours is superior, but I'm just saying what we do, and then just to show how the paddles might look the same, but they're really constructed differently. And also the carbon that we use, depending on how much carbon fiber you use, that will impact the weight of the paddle and also the durability. So we make sure that we know where all the weaknesses are, and also the design of the paddle is made, especially our latest paddle, the Sting shape. We've designed it so that it's extremely strong. It will not break where the shaft and the blade meet. That's an important, very important for us. Yeah, so this is what a finished paddle looks like. The process is back to the mold, is you put your carbon fiber, and then you put the foam, and you kind of sandwich the foam with the carbon fiber and add the resin, and then you heat it up to about 170 degrees for 20 minutes. And then the paddle comes out, the resin hardens with the carbon fiber. And that's basically what makes a dragon boat paddle. So then to the graphic component, we've learned from other industries using composite of how to do this. And that was really, when we came out, the big difference is now, we can do custom paddles, make very graphic paddles, as opposed to adding a sticker on your paddle, which can add weight or affect the performance. Because the graphics are printed directly on the carbon fiber, it's the same integrity as a completely black paddle. So it doesn't affect the integrity of the paddle. One other aspect of our paddle is it's one piece between the blade and the shaft. Some paddle companies, it's two piece. So that affects the rigidity that you feel in the water. We also reinforce our edges with fiberglass. So if you hit, I've got a paddle right here. So if you hit on the side of the boat a lot of paddles, some of them, if they're not reinforced, it can easily chip. So we've done that. The fiberglass has been very successful. You know, the weight varies obviously of regarding, you know, how the length of your paddle. And also we have, was chatting with Pat about this, is our adjustable clamp. So our paddles come in fixed length or adjustable. And we've had a lot of success with the adjustable clamp because it's just solid. A lot of people worry, is it gonna slip when we're in the water? But this aluminum clamp has really been successful for us. And paddlers seem to love it. So we also recently added the lever lock adjustable handle. This one's a little bit heavier, but some paddlers prefer to be able to change the length on the go versus the aluminum clamp. You need an Allen key. But so these are the various things, options that we offer. I don't know if you have any questions, Pat. That was basically the quick presentation.
No, that's good. Well, actually, I was curious about the, wondering if you were going to go to something other than an Allen key adjustment for it, because I know a lot of companies were using went to a lever, like a quick connect. But my experience years ago was that there were some design flaws in them, and there was some slippage in those ones, and that I found that your Allen key one was more reliable than some of the other ones that had the levers on them. Is there something different you've done with yours? Because I'm guessing it's totally reliable now.
Yeah, well, I definitely agree that the aluminum clamp is the number one. We've been selling the lever lock version now for a year, and we've had 2 problems with it. So not enough, but when people ask us which one we recommend, we would recommend this one. But all of our paddles have a 3-year warranty now, so if ever there's a problem. But I know that when you're in that important race, you know, you don't want anything to happen. I would have complete faith in the adjustable clamp.
So what's, and we're going to open this up to questions, because I think most of the viewers are using Hornet paddles. But I'd like to know what's new and exciting. What other stuff? You talk about some other things that you're involved in. What are some of the other products that you're doing related to the sport?
So you mean, so we have new products coming out. So we've had paddling gloves that have been quite popular. So we recently made a full finger version. So what I love about going to the vendor races is I get to chat with people, and I get to hear, you know, what do people want, and that's really what we try to do. And a lot of people have said, you know, when it gets a little colder outside, they would like to have a full finger glove. So we've recently launched this. We've got a new 4-paddle travel bag. It's kind of hard to see, but it basically, if you don't put in 4 paddles, you just have extra space for clothing or other items. So it's kind of like a weekender paddle bag.
Hold on. I like the 4-paddle bag. I like that. Are there sleeves in there that separate the paddles, keep it from scratching?
I guess it's kind of hard to see. So,
cool. What's the retail price on that?
Good question. We just launched it a couple weeks ago. I think it's $90.
Okay.
I will confirm that. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. That's interesting. That's a good number to be able to put in there, 4 paddles.
And with COVID, we've had to pivot a little bit, as everybody can imagine that, you know, Dragon Boat sales of products has not been extremely great this year. So we've been working on for a while, and this COVID kind of pushed us to create this is a fiberglass kayak paddle that we've been working on. So obviously not in the dragon boating world, but because of our expertise with paddles, we're able to tinker, and a lot of companies have had to pivot. So this is, so this is a new product that we're launching for kayaking now.
I got to think that kayak and stand-up paddles are probably at least stable or maybe increasing.
Yes, we also sell carbon fiber. So our printing technology is also applied to stand-up paddle board. Those sales have increased during COVID, definitely. So for Hornet, it's been we're here for the long run, and you know, it's tough for Dragon Boat, but we'll be back at events next year when everything resumes.
Okay, Vince, we talked about the, I was asking you about an outrigger paddle that I used when I was overseas, and I asked you about that. You're not, are you doing any outrigger over here, or are they just, is that just for the European market, or?
We've tinkered with an outrigger paddle. We've tested the market a little bit, but we haven't necessarily found the right product that we think, you know, whenever we come out with a product, we want to make sure that it's going to be different and better and people are really going to flock to it. So the OC paddle, we haven't found the right formula yet.
Okay, cool. Okay, anybody, questions regarding the Hornet paddle?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, Vince. Can you talk a little bit about the ridge that runs down the center of the blade as opposed to a flat surface?
Yes, yes. So ours have, you can see the undulation here, the ridge. It's interesting because I've had this debate until we can really prove it scientifically. Some paddlers prefer one to the other. Our general preference with the ridge is that it splits the water and it gives, you know, paddlers like the feeling with our paddle. I know in Hong Kong, a lot of the paddlers, they like the flat blade, and also in China mainland. So, I mean, I don't know, Pat, if you have an opinion on this one, but for me, it's what I hear is personal preference. We've tried to partner with a university to do research based on the blade shape, especially the ridge versus flat. But we haven't found a partner yet willing to do the research yet.
Thank you.
My opinion on that, for what it's worth, and I remember when they first came out years ago, it was a new specification through the IDBF. And when I tried one, I thought it was just terrible because I couldn't, at the exit, I was getting stuck at the exit because it grabbed, it really did grab more water than the flat surface. And so you had to have a really good exit. You had to be a really good technical paddler to use it, and it helped me. It made me a better paddler, and I do feel like it's got more grab to it. So it could, if you've never used it before, it could take a practice or so to get used to it. But it definitely, I think, my opinion, it definitely holds more water. That concavity or whatever it is, I think that grabs more water at the catch than a flat one. It doesn't lose as much. But it takes a little bit of, you got to really work at your exit because it's still grabbing water. You've got to be able to exit very cleanly. That's my short story on that. Any other questions for Vince on paddles?
What's the minimum order for custom design?
Oh, sure. That's a great question. We usually have a requirement of 10 paddles for the first order, and we also offer free custom design ideas. So we have a team that makes designs. So if ever even if your team is not fully on board, you don't have enough paddles, you can reach out to us and we can give your team some ideas. A lot of time when the team starts seeing the mock designs, people get a lot more excited than just, so yeah, definitely feel free to reach out to us and we can work with our designers for your team.
Hey, Vince.
Hi, Rebecca.
Becky here. Hi. Listen, I'm just really curious. You talked about the foam, the thin foam piece that you started when you first started making your paddles, and you still use that. And you said other companies don't use that. I'm just curious, what do the other companies use or not use? I mean, could you explain why there's the difference there and what you see as the value of having it's a technical thing. I'm curious about these differences.
Sure. So the PMI foam is very, very dense. So when you combine it with the carbon and the resin, if you have impact on it, it'll be much less likely to break or dig into the surface versus another like a PU foam, which is softer and cheaper. That might be, over the long run, that would be the big difference for the foam inside. Yeah. Just stronger, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but also, yes, I mean, there's so many factors that go from the shape of the, even though the 202 specification, just where the shaft meets the blade, if you don't use enough there's a lot of things why a paddle could break. But we just try to stay ahead and just use good materials. And, I think, like I said, the Sting design is by far the best structural design that we have.
Thank you.
what about taking care of your paddle? Things like leaving it in a hot car for the weekend. Can the paddle get hurt doing that, or are there things that people need to do to look after their paddles, or are they pretty much just throw them in the trunk and go, and you can use them in a month?
It's definitely recommended if you're paddling, especially in salt water, to rinse your paddle quite often. That'll keep it nice, especially the finish. Keeping your paddle in the hot car is not a good idea, especially in Florida. So one of the things is for our fixed paddles, what we do is we cut the paddle and then we glue the handle. We use high temperature hot glue as opposed to epoxy resin, because if you put epoxy resin, once you glue it, it'll never come off. So we have some paddlers that want to change the length of their paddle. So generally what we've done is switch to high temperature hot glue. But what happens is if it stays in the car too long, the handle might come unglued. So that's not recommended, definitely, yeah. And also if you're at a race and it's a nice hot sun, you don't want to keep your paddle out in the middle, keep it in the shaded area. Yeah. And also if it's an interesting fact is if there's lightning, you don't want to be holding your paddle because it conducts electricity. So I don't know if some people didn't know that carbon fiber does conduct electricity.
That's good to know, because I'm not sure that I've ever I think I grabbed my paddle and run to the car. That's good. Any other questions for Vince?
I have a quick question. As far as the care of the paddle, that's great information. I've heard of people like using car wax to wax the paddles. Is that something you recommend, or does it help, or not? Does it make any difference? What's your thoughts on that?
I actually don't have any experience doing that. I would be careful on what combination of what compounds are in there. I don't know, Pat, do you know anything about that? I don't know, are you allowed to put material on the surface of your blade? I don't know if that's for racing regulations. That's a great question. I don't know.
I don't think anybody would be able to detect it, but I think it's kind of funny that to wax it to protect it, or to wax it so you go faster.
Wax it to protect it, but now that you say that, man, if it helps you go faster,
It wouldn't. No, that was no, absolutely not. That's not gonna
to protect it.
It's not like skis. You don't check the temperature, the air temperature, and then put a certain wax on your paddle and expect to go faster.
Another important thing that some people don't realize is if ever you were to have another paddle hit your blade and there's a little hole, it's really important to not allow water to go in. So if ever you damage your paddle, even if it's a tiny crack, you want to fill it up with a little bit of epoxy resin, or there's a 3M sells a helicopter tape. You'd want to just cover it because if water goes inside, then that can create bubbles, and so that's another good care tip, because it does happen sometimes if your paddler behind you is off sync and it hits really hard, and just even a little crack, just to be safe, try to fill it up and not get water in there. Yeah.
On that note, Vince, when there's a crack or there's a hole there on the blade there, and with your pattern there, is there any way we can use your pattern to do the repair so that it would look more or less the same as the original?
I mean, if it's a big dent, it's hard to do much about it. But yes, and you mean to make it look as good as new, right?
That's right.
Yeah, no, that's hard to do. Yeah.
Okay.
Vince, do you repair paddles?
We generally do not repair paddles. I mean, I guess it depends on the damage. But like sometimes if I see people at a race and they've got a little dent in there, I'll fill it up myself with epoxy resin. We'll try to, I guess it depends case by case. Luckily, not too many paddlers have had dents in their paddles. And again, that comes from using the better PMI foam inside and using, yeah.
I just saw on the chat thing something come up from Woodstock. That's Dave. He lives in California, paddles an outrigger, and he says, I wax my outrigger. So if we do time trials in California next time, his is the boat that you want to use. Any other questions for Vince? Vince, what kind of delivery? Are you having any difficulty, anything change getting product in from China? What's the delivery time if we wanted to order some team paddles? If I placed an order tomorrow, gave you the design, what kind of time are we looking at?
From the moment we have the graphic design confirmed by the team, it takes about 1 month for production and delivery.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're not too busy these days, so there shouldn't be any delays.
Well, sorry to hear that, but good that it's going to be quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Vince? Okay, well, we're going to have a Mondrell moment again. We'll finish off with Mondrell. He told me he's got a really exciting talk today, so that'll be nice. But Vince, I want to thank you so much for being here today. It's a nice spin to have somebody from the industry in to talk about the technical side of it and so on. And congratulations to you. And for those of you that haven't met Vince before, if you see him at an event, go up and say hello. Great guy. He's really got a passion for the sport and always looking at ways to contribute and make things better. So if you've got an idea, you know, he might be the guy that you might want to talk to about it. And Vince, I want to say thanks again for your support too. You've really been generous with products and supporting the camps and the national teams and so on. So way to go. Thanks very much.
Well,
Thanks, Vince.
Thanks.
Okay. Isn't it weird watching people clap and nothing? You don't hear nothing. It's such a weird thing, this Zoom thing. Okay, so Vince, can you pass the host over to Mike Mondrell?
How would I do that?
Oh, okay. I wonder if I can reclaim the host. Just go to where it says participants.
Yeah.
And you'll see a list. Find his name.
Yeah.
And don't click on it. Just hover over where it says more.
Oh, I see. Make host. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, should be good now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, for your entertainment pleasure, Mr. Mondrell.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I've been reduced back down to a 5-minute segment today. Last week I had a full segment, but maybe it didn't go so well. So I got a short segment today, but I got the timer. So 5 minutes and go. All right, so I'm on. Okay, today I'm going to talk about the 2,000 meters, which is the longest standard racing distance we all race. I want to talk about my first 2K. So when I first started paddling, my first year paddling, our team went to a race, and I was basically like everyone else is in their first year of paddling. I was an arm paddler, and we went to this event, and I didn't know too much about dragon boating, and we raced, and then I thought the event was over, and then someone said, well, they're gonna have a 2K. It's an exhibition race. There's no awards, but it's just an exhibition race for fun. And I said, a 2K? I said, what's that? How does that work? And they said, well, you're just gonna race around the outside of the race course. And I said, oh, cool, I'm in. So our team goes out there, we line up, and the horn goes off, we take off, and I'm giving it all I got going down the first 500 there, and we hit the first turn, and we come out of the first turn, and now I'm really excited, right? This is pretty cool. There's boats bumping into each other, and you're knocking paddles, and this is my first ever 2K. So we start heading back after turn number 1, and I really start to get on it. I'm giving it all I got, and we get to where we started from. And I think the race is over, because all I was told was we got to go around the race course. I didn't know we had to go around twice. So what happens is the steers continues around the turn, and I'm like, uh-oh. I'm in a world of hurt, right? So I'm doing everything I can just to stay in. And I thought either one of two things were going to happen. Either I was going to die of exhaustion and fall in the bottom of the boat, or B, my arms were going to fall off. But I stuck it out. My second 1,000 of that race was pretty awful. crossed the finish line, and I said, I never want to race this distance again. But time goes on, time heals, and the 2K actually became my favorite distance to race. People will tell you that the 2K is a steers person's race. So you need a steers person that can negotiate tight turns. You need a steers person that can ride wash. I agree with that, but I think more important is you need a steers person for the 2K that is a motivator. You need that guy back there that doesn't shut up from the time you're lining up the boat until the time that boat crosses the finish line. You need that guy that's just screaming. You need that guy back there that when that race is over, he's more exhausted than anyone that was paddling. That's the key for me, is the motivation. A great motivator for the 2K will take your mind off of the pain. Front six, lead this boat, engine room, we need you now, back six, give us a push. It's all good stuff. And if you just listen and focus, and you got that guy back there that's just screaming the entire length of that race, it really helps. You don't feel anything. I also like the back and forth between steers when they're in each other's way, when they start screaming at each other. That's kind of a fun thing too. And even more like at the international level, when they're screaming at each other in different languages. They have no idea what the other guy's saying, but yet they do. That's pretty cool too. So you need that motivator back there. I want to talk about like the last turn. So you come out of turn number 3, and now you're headed for home. There's no greater adrenaline rush in the sport than when you come out of turn number 3 and you're headed home. For me, anyhow. Like if we took a boat out and we were going to race 500 meters, there's not a great adrenaline rush from at the start. But that last 500 of the 2K, huge adrenaline rush. You come out of that last turn and you can do anything. I'm convinced some of those 500 times are faster than actual just 500 times. So a lot of times people ask me, Mondrell, what's your favorite distance to race? And I have a standard answer, which this is the way I answer this question every time I'm asked this question. My answer to that question is, my favorite distance to race is any 2K steered by Pat Bradley. That's the answer to that question. Let's see, I'm a little over, but I got to get to the motivational board. Like I said, I love to hear the steers person screaming and motivating people. One of my favorite things to hear during the 2K is a quote that's on my motivational board today, and it's actually a Pat Bradley quote. I don't know if can you see this? Don't you die on me, Mondrell. Some people would consider this an insult while you're racing, like you're not doing your fair share. I look at it as, I think he's looking at me and he's saying he is doing his fair share, but I can get just a little bit more out of him. All I got to do is scream at him a little bit, call his name on a personal level, and it works. It works every time. That's about it. That's about all I have to say. And I guess the bottom line is, if you're looking for somebody to steer your 2K, don't always just look for the guy with the most steering skill. Look for that motivator. That's about it. Let's see, I'm at 6:28. That's not bad. Right?
That was great, Mondrell. Thanks. That was fun. All right, and I see in Stephen's background the queen of the Royal Quack family, Margaret. Why don't you step up and say hello?
Hello, hi everybody.
All the way from Toronto. Okay. All right, well listen, thanks. That's great, Mondrell. Stephen, thank you so much for those insights into how it all got started for us, and thanks for getting us here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for doing this for the Dragon Boat community, Bradley.
And this will all be posted on Heat International for if you know of anybody that wants to see the recorded version, whatever. They're starting to pick up steam. We will be taking a break from the Paddle the World. I don't know if it'll start next week or the week after, but we'll be taking a little bit of a break from this. It will come back. We've already lasted more than some sitcoms last, so we've got episode 17. That's not bad.
Good.
Anyway, so yeah, we'll just look for notices. We'll send it out to everybody. Vince, thanks again, and all the best through this COVID thing. I know you're going to come out in good shape when we're ready to roll. I wouldn't worry about the dragon boat sport because anybody that I've talked to is just full of enthusiasm, and when this thing lifts, I think people are going to come back with a vengeance to this sport. So I don't think we're done by any means. I think 2020, whatever next year is, going to be pretty busy year for race production companies and paddle companies and so on. So thanks again for your time, Vince. Thanks again, Mondrell, everybody. Susan, nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, everybody.
Stephen and Margaret, good to see you guys.
Liz, thank
Bye,
you.
Liz.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.